Georgia Governor Brian Kemp is suing the Atlanta City Council and Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms to block the city's mask mandate. The suit claims the mayor overstepped her authority after Kemp issued an executive order Wednesday explicitly barring local governments from announcing mask requirements. There are at least 15 local governments in Georgia that have mandated face coverings. And Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms joins us now from Atlanta. She's been under quarantine at home after announcing she tested positive for the virus earlier this month. Mayor Bottoms, good morning to you. I want to jump right into this because your state is in the middle of a fight against a deadly virus and now also a fight between the governor and yourself. What's going on here?
It's really odd that the governor has filed this lawsuit on July 1st. The city of Savannah, through Mayor Johnson, instituted a mask order on July 8th. The governor's hometown of Athens, Georgia, instituted a mask order, but it was not until we instituted a mask order in Atlanta, and I pointed out that Donald Trump violated that order when he landed at our airport and did not wear a mask, that the governor filed suit against us. And so it is very clearly very clear that the governor is putting politics over people. And I joined several mayors across our state who will continue to enforce our mask mandate. And we will have to fight the governor about this in court.
Are you saying that President Trump encouraged Governor Kemp to issue this lawsuit?
I can't speak to whatever conversations that they had, but I do know that our governor is a Trump loyalist, and he seems to work very hard to police the president of the United States, and that is often at the expense of the people in our state. And we've seen that. This is the same governor who said in the midst of this pandemic that he had just learned that this virus could be transmitted by asymptomatic transmission. Yeah. And so even when he reopened the state, interestingly enough, he did not have the support of the president then, but certainly many of his policies are in lockstep with the White House.
So, but Mayor, Governor Kemp has come around and he now says he, quote, strongly encourages residents to wear masks. Why do you have to go a step further and make them mandatory?
I can't speak to that because many of the governor's decisions as it relates to this virus have, quite frankly, just been illogical.
Mayor Bottoms, what I'm asking is why do you need to go a step further to make masks mandatory when the governor is already encouraging them?
Oh, the reason that we need to go a step further is because we need some consistency throughout our city. We have very high numbers in the city of Atlanta, and we have business owners who are saying that it would be helpful to them if there were consistency throughout the city. And quite frankly, it's very simple. Wearing a mask helps stop the spread of this virus. And so we will continue to do everything that we can do to make sure that people are safe. But ironically, even in this lawsuit challenging our mask mandate, he's also challenging advisory, voluntary recommendations that we have made to businesses in terms of reverting back to phase one.
Yeah, well, he says you're confusing people. He also says that the mask mandate is unenforceable. You just had President Trump arrive and violate the mandate. How will you enforce it, and will you pursue that enforcement against the president himself?
Well, the way that we will enforce it is the way that we would enforce any city ordinance. You can issue a citation. You can give people a fine. And I'm not going to cite the president of the United States.
Why not,
I wanted
Mayor?
to point out that well, one, he's not here now, so we can't give him a ticket if he's not in Atlanta. But it was to point out that he was violating the rules of our city and just a blatant disregard for the science. Right in our backyard, we have the CDC, we have Emory University that said wearing a mask will help stop the spread of this virus, and yet Governor Kemp went to a small university in our state to get the opinion that he wanted.
I think you could probably locate the president if you wanted to hand him that citation. But I'm curious about the perspective of businesses. The governor says he's bringing this lawsuit on behalf of businesses and people who are looking for jobs, want to stay employed. What's your response to that? Do you think the mandatory mask requirement and your rollback to phase one hurts the economy there in Georgia?
Absolutely not. Again, reading is fundamental. Our recommendations going back to phase one were advisory voluntary recommendations. And so to be sued based upon issuing voluntary advisory recommendations really is just a waste of taxpayer money in our state. We don't have appropriate contact tracing. We don't have adequate testing in our state. I personally waited 8 days for results, and by the time I got my results, I was tested, there was one person in my household who was asymptomatic and positive. 8 days later, myself and my husband were then positive for COVID-19, and my husband being very ill. So I think a better use of taxpayer money would be to expand testing and contact tracing in our state, and not to waste it on suing me personally and our Atlanta City Council personally, simply because we're trying to save lives in our city.
Do you think the governor's positions is costing lives?
I absolutely think that it's costing lives.
So you think the governor's positions is killing people there in Georgia? That's
absolutely.
Wow.
We have over 3,100 Georgians who have died of COVID-19. I believe our numbers as of yesterday were over 130,000 who have tested positive. Many are senior citizens. Many are in minority communities. And so I think that when you are reckless, as the governor has been, when you disregard science, as the governor has done, then certainly people are suffering and people are dying in our state. Wow. And our numbers are rising at a record rate.
All right, Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, thank you for being with us. We wish the best of health to you and your family.